We were asked the question, why is not eating honey vegan? Or why is eating honey not vegan? Well, if we're thinking as what God's intent is, we don't eat anything that comes from animals because it causes pain and suffering and death. And while bees naturally produce honey, and I don't want to make you sick to your stomach, but honey is really bee vomit. They digest the pollen that they collect and they convert it to honey, and then they put it into the cones because it's food for other bees. So they regurgitate it, and that's what honey is. But they say not to feed it to little children because there's bacteria there. Well, because it's digested. It's part of the animal. Now, maybe you don't believe that insects are animals, but they are living, breathing life forms that God created. And we have to understand that we're to love them as we love ourselves. They're our neighbors. And I dare say that if you have a house with a yard or you go to a park, you're going to see bees. And they're probably not very far from where you live, even in an apartment building. They are our neighbors. In fact, the whole of creation are really our neighbors. We're to love whatever God created in every life form as we love ourselves. So it doesn't matter whether it's a pig or a bee, a chicken, a cow, doesn't matter. We're to love them the same as the human beings. And a bee is a living human being. Now, while the bee is alive and they produce the honey while they're alive, but we go into their hives, and in the process, with the beekeepers that collect the honey, they're taking food that the bees need. Now, if they're very productive, they produce more than they need. But we don't always harvest that way. And then people that keep bees have to feed the bees a supplement so that they can sustain them over the winter because they've stolen their food. That's the problem that we have. And bees die because of it. And in closing the lid, and I've known beekeepers, I've been there when they've collected things. And in just setting the cover back on the beehive, they have killed other bees. We have to understand that every living being deserves to live as God wanted them to live. And the only reason we need beekeepers to take bees to farms to fertilize things is because we've used so much pesticides, we've killed off the natural bee population. That's what the problem is. And I find out from beekeepers that they have to raise queens away from the wild because the queen bees quite often die from the poison that's in the flower petals, in the flower pollen, because it's been sprayed. And they have to replace the queen in that hive so that the colony will reproduce more. That's not being vegan. Period. Amen.